Okay. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Inside Hustle series. We are now here to bring beautiful guests like my friend Cindy, who's on the show today, to come into the space beyond the mind, into the truth of who we are, and to really just activate and allow for new wisdom and interpretation of what's going on to come through for, all of our greatest good, one conversation at a time. And so, my beautiful friend, Cindy Powers Prosor, she is a soul guide and calls herself a midwife, sorry, for new paradigm of consciousness. And she works with clients to help reframe their story, return to joy, compassion, and a deeper connection to themselves. Cindy and I have worked together in the past. We've held retreats together. We are very dear friends. And I'm so, so, so excited to share some of our intimate conversations that we usually have just between the two of us that are so amazing into the space today and share it with everybody. So welcome, Cindy.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, to share these amazing conversations we've been having and been having for a while.
Yes, you are always one of my favorite people to talk to about this stuff. I just love how you show up and you hold space and you're willing to go in all these different directions. And so I was really honored that you'd be one of my first guests on this new series that I'm doing. And yeah, I'm excited to just get stuck into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really honored that you asked me. I have to say that I do enjoy our conversations. They are deep and I never know where they're going to go, just like today's. We're just going to take it away and see where it travels.
Right. I love it. I mean, so, you and I have been both going through a little bit of a similar experience. Me more so over the last 6 months, you more so over a more extended period of time, where it's been a cause to pause, take a step back, not try and force or push anything out in our client work or in how we are even showing up on social media and actually being in this space of almost cocooning, like in a way, right? And it's been so interesting because, I am certainly having the experience on my end that what is coming out of it is really quite amazing. It's a slightly different direction into things. It is taking me somewhere else, and I've just had to really honor the process when I was in this in-between stage. And I wondered if you could share about your experience in that regard as well, because I think it's really common for us all to find it incredibly difficult to do that. And, feeling like due to the paradigm of which we exist in this sort of like 3D matrix kind of system, that we have to be and do certain things. And we're rewriting that in what we've been doing in the different way we're approaching this now, which is much more kind of the new paradigm. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about your recent experience in that.
Love to, love to. Well, I have several recent experiences. I mean, really starting at COVID, so much has happened, and I have grown exponentially. And I've been growing for a lot of years. And I thought, I know you never get to the end of this. However, the last 4 or 5 years have been incredibly crazy for me in personal growth and discovery with my greatest teachers. And my greatest teachers, as many of us have greatest teachers, mine have been, of course, my family. Um, my mother passed in COVID and she's in the US, I'm in New Zealand, couldn't say goodbye to that, learned how to journey through that with my emotions and, just being in trust. And I think that's the key word for me. If I can say, what is my anchor in uncertainty and allowing and receiving and flowing and being internally guided is, first of all, stillness and spaciousness to listen and to receive, and then trusting in the process and allowing things to just flow and happen instead of trying to create them or be attached to a certain outcome.
Yeah.
Those have been key components for me in my whole life, but especially in these really big times. So Most recently we have a family batch or cabin on a lake that's been in the family for now 7 generations. And once my mother passed, she left it to my brother and myself, and my brother just wanted to sell it. He wanted me to buy him half and out, and I couldn't. And it was a bit of a conflict. And he just said, I'm taking you to court and I'm going to make you sell it. And it was a real eye-opening experience. And I created magic in that opportunity. I could have, of course, I felt some really big emotions, first disappointment, sadness, and anger.
Mm.
And then I was able to really ask, why is this happening for me, not to me? And really get out of that victim blame mode, which is so 3D and so easy to get trapped in.
Mm.
And I thought I had, ended the why is this happening to me era of my life years ago. But again, our biggest teachers and things that happen to us that matter so much like that, it was another opportunity for me to do it. So really the bottom line to that was I created the time, just like what you said, Joanna. I let go of the big part of my business. I was still working one-on-one with my clients and doing the deep work with people that were finding me. And organically, we were creating it together, but not really marketing and not really trying to build my business because I was really in that personal growth phase again. And so I took the time, which I can when I am at our lake house in California, to just be still, to actually feel and release some emotions, really look at my story, all the things that I teach.
Yeah.
And again, there's just a next level and then the next level and the next level as we do this inner work. And I got really clear with what it is I wanted to create, not what was bothering me or what was not going well, but what would it look like if it did go well? And what would I like to create? And I thought, I want to create the perfect partnership with another family to share this cabin with. I mean, what would the perfect brother look like to share this cabin with?
Yeah.
And I got really clear one day and I wrote down all of the values and how it was going to feel once this was all engaged and happening. And I gave a copy of this to my 2 children, my adult children, my husband, and myself. And I said, really add your own, and be in the energy of the future we're creating and see it happening and expect this or something better. And about 2 weeks later, I got a knock on the door, and it was this couple that had heard that our cabin was for sale and were we interested in selling? And I said, no, but I am interested in sharing if you want to become a partner. And they said, that sounds interesting. And that was 2 years ago. And today we have the best partnership that I could even ever imagine. And yes, this is the brother I always wished for. So, and I have so many circumstances that have happened in my life that way, which so many people call them miracles. But
Mm.
miracles happen all the time, especially when you trust, you give it space to, to grow, to come into fruition. When you can really get clear with what you want to feel like, what your future timeline feels like. You don't need to know the form. It's the feeling of how do I want to feel a year from now? And just be in that, magic happens. And that has happened. That's just one. There have been so many things in the last 4 years that have been what many people would have thought of as a real problem,
Mm.
but I saw it as an opportunity and possibility to get even happier.
Amazing. I love that. And I love that you shared about that little technique or tool that you used and writing it down and what kind of things, headlines that you had and how you put that together and then sharing it with your nearest and dearest to help bring it all to life in a group energetic. That's really, really beautiful. And I'm sure people might take that and utilize it for themselves as well. But
Well, yes.
in the pause where you did mention there was some discomfort, or kind of meeting kind of versions of yourself that you thought had kind of maybe dissipated, and the one that sort of was it was happening to rather than for, and that kind of regard. So what did you find yourself doing when you had that realization to support yourself at that time and the discomfort of that space?
Great question. Um, it's a technique that I feel I teach this to my clients, and I'm actually doing it around another area of my life today. And what I do is I get really clear with what it is the story is or the stories are that I have attached myself to in the past. Who do I think my brother is and how do I think he treats me? And, the whole hierarchy is being a boy and I was a girl in the family and he's always been indulged. And, I just went into all those stories and wrote them down and really looked at them. And even though they might have been based on facts, it was like this was my soul's journey.
Mhm.
This happened for me to learn about this experience with this experience and what was the learning. So I got really clear with what it was that I was ready to just discard and let go of.
Yeah.
I really just, you can't change anything you don't see.
No.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I think it's so powerful to really look at what it is that I'm attached to and what are the stories that I'm playing over and over again, because you're just going to create more of the same.
Hmm.
We put it in our backpack and then we go, I'm not going to let that happen to me again. And you stew over it. What are the emotions that are coming up? What are the feelings that are coming up? What are you going to create on that future timeline? More of the same. And I think if we can put it on paper and really say, I'm done with this, what are the gifts? What are the blessings? And who do I need to forgive? And that's another key tool. I had to do a lot of forgiveness, which was great. These are my biggest teachers, the last ones, hopefully in this lifetime. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Forgiveness and there was something else, but I can't remember what it was. But huge things about really letting go, releasing, and then seeing where I want to go. Who would I like? And here's the other key: the attachment. Oh, I know what it was. The inner child work that I did with my brother and myself, because that was my little girl was more attached, excuse me. My younger self was more attached to my younger brother
Yeah.
because we were so tight. And I knew I was letting go of that as well. So I had to do a bit of inner child work, excuse me, to let go of the sadness, and have compassion for that part of myself. So there was some deep um, sadness with the different parts of myself there. And then the other thing was not being attached to holding onto the cabin. Maybe I wasn't meant to have the cabin. Maybe there was something better that was going to happen because of this.
Wow.
And that was a big aha moment for me too. So I really felt into the feeling of expanding into something greater, even more possibilities and opportunities that I didn't even see yet. So
Mm.
I really opened up to true magic.
Yeah, which is a really, you have to be quite aware in that practice because we are so attached to many things in this reality. And especially when it's got an emotional connection like that with a long lineage of the family. But I also feel like, just as you were referencing about your brother and the stories and narratives that you had running around that, um, we get attached to these definitions of people that we may have had over the course of our life. And I mean, I think, I was talking to someone just the other day about the fact that they were kind of being held accountable to a version of themselves that was outdated and old. And they were showing up in this new kind of state of being, having done a lot of work on themselves, like doing all sorts of different practices and personal development and things and supporting themselves. And yet somebody was really holding them to that old version and almost like nothing that they could do or say made it any different because the filter and things that that person is viewing, which comes from the wounding that, all of us are carrying, it's to some certain extent, and we work through them as we go. Existing with us. And so, yeah, that was sort of we were debating about, how you address that. And I was talking about the fact that, in those situations, you want to see someone in their highest light or the highest version of themselves, not the version that may not be operating out of the integrity of their true self in that moment, that may be projecting or throwing things at you or blaming you for their triggers or reactions or whatever it is, you know? And so it's really, that is an interesting practice in itself because you have to kind of, you're not, allowing or qualifying that behavior, but you're choosing not to continue to throw energetic shade, for example, at that person because that will, if you're judging them or you're making them wrong or whatever, then you're in that frequency. You're
Absolutely.
and if you can elevate it and be like, okay, this person isn't operating in their highest integrity that I know that they truly are right now. I'm going to allow that. That's okay. And if it's affecting me, I got some work to do, but I'm going to stand here in the power of my light. I'm going to see them and lift them into the elevation so that they can hopefully connect with that version of themselves.
I love that.
That is the most supportive thing, which is also can be really challenging and hard,
I
especially
know.
if we there's a part of us that feels victimized by something or in any or disempowered or whatever, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that so much. Eckhart Tolle says it in A New Earth, and I remember reading it and just going, "Wow."
Mm.
When you can be with someone who is totally in the victim blame mode, it's really easy for us to go down a notch and meet them there.
Yes.
But the key is what you just explained, to stay that high vibe. And the way we do that is we exchange judgment for compassion.
Yeah.
And we have compassion. We see them through love
Hmm.
rather than through ego.
Hmm.
And if we can hold that higher vibe, what happens is that they raise theirs to meet us.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I just love that you said that because it's one of my practices now. One of my intentions is to meet more community in the area that I'm living in. It's a fairly new area for me. And one of the most common comments that I'm getting right now is that I'm a light in the room.
You always light up a room, Cindy.
But I think that is so fascinating because I'm the new person that comes in, but my intention is to hold that high vibe and listen to learn and really stay in curiosity and compassion.
Mm,
And you have to hold a high vibrational frequency from your heart to be able to do that with excellence and in authenticity and integrity and truth for myself, not to be inauthentic at all, but to hold space out of love and out of compassion. And if it gets hard, change the subject.
yeah.
But really, I'm having so much fun playing with the energy that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also been experiencing um interesting I guess when I've been going through these current experiences that I've been going through, things will come in and challenge and almost like pull the rug or the threat of pulling the rug. And I kind of have been sort of interpreting it as I'm holding a certain level of energetic connected with a new paradigm consciousness and something that is in service to the planet. And there seems to be characters in my reality playing out the old the old paradigm, almost like coming in a last hurrah to try and sort of dismantle it or throw me for a loop or whatever, as it's happening. And I do see it as characters masquerading in these things because what I know is that people are showing up in exactly the energetic that is related to our energy signature directly. And some of the time it's for us to have an experience of that or to be able to, as we're talking about, really hold the energy of ourselves and our light throughout anything without it making us wobble or waver or just completely stress out and lose it.
Yeah.
And
And
that,
that takes practice.
yes, yes. And just holding to that vision as you were doing with that cabin is also what I have been recently doing in a project I've been working on. And it has yeah, I mean, there was like a roller coaster of things happening like this, and moments where I literally could have just gone, oh, woe is me. I can't believe this is happening, and gone into victim. And then I remember allowing that part of me to surface, and then part of me that's like, oh, all is lost, in that moment, and allowing it, and then just being like, okay, rise up and out. And then we are just holding the line, and I don't care what's playing out here. I don't believe it. I do, because I know that this is what's going to happen. This is happening. That was,
Hold that energy. You just hold that energy.
yeah. Yeah. But it's not about suppressing or ignoring or bypassing.
Oh,
That's,
no. In fact, that's why I did the clearing.
yeah.
Because if you don't really feel and release, you can't feel and expand
Yes.
because that lower frequency is still in your body and it's going to dampen it down.
Yeah.
And those thoughts and those beliefs will create more of the other, the past.
That's right. Yeah.
It's so important to do the work. And that's why as you continue to do the work, you just get it just becomes easier, but better and better and better and better to where miracles happen quicker and quicker
Yeah.
because you built the muscle.
Yeah.
You got the dance step down.
Hmm. Mm.
And it becomes fun.
So fun. I mean, this reality can provide the most miraculous experiences that literally blow your mind.
They really, really can. And again, it's so much. We are frequency, we are resonance. So it's all about, our emotions, our frequency. And that is connected to past experiences. I just had a very close person in my family have a huge anxiety attack
Mm.
out of the blue. And it was because he hadn't done the work and he kept stuffing it and stuffing it and stuffing it. And when he finally cracked
Mm.
and we sat down and he was able to talk about what was going on, we got to the root cause and it happened when he was even in utero.
Mm.
It was before he was even born when his mother was carrying him because she was 16 and probably didn't want to be pregnant and then ended up, having all these marriages before he was like four marriages before he was 12.
Mm.
And he was never really nurtured the way a baby or a child need to be nurtured. And he never felt safe. And so he had to be in control. Even at one, even before one, he
Mm.
didn't feel safe or loved and had to be in control. And so he had this fear and this need to control riddled through his body. And he just thought it was normal until his body just couldn't hold it anymore,
Yeah.
especially with what's going on right now. I mean, we have no idea what's going to happen. We have to be able to navigate uncertain times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speaking of what's going on right now, what's your take on it all?
One of my favorite subjects. I'm really excited. I am so hopeful. I'm so hopeful. I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve so many days. I only see things are having to fall apart before we can create them again from a much better place. I mean, that's why I do call myself a midwife. I'm ushering out this old way of three-dimensional living, of domination, power over, control, and manipulation. Let it go so that we can give birth to this new way of being in the world, working together, unity consciousness, co-creating and using the tools that we have been teaching our clients to use to make them be just a part of who we be. Not worrying about running out, not trying to get things before they're gone, but knowing that there's plenty in the world, having, that consciousness of abundance throughout our life and living in gratitude and grace and being emotionally, smart, intelligent, knowing how to navigate these emotions, this energy, these frequencies that we have. And I do believe that there's going to be so many amazing inventions, creations. What I've seen in my life has been mind blowing. But what these new babies that are going to see in their life, I can't even imagine. I mean, seriously. What's going to be happening over the next 5, 10, 20 years? I'm excited as heck.
Yeah. I mean, it's accelerating at a level that is just it's just really, really fascinating. And me too, I have this absolute level of excitement, and it feels like I'm being guided even more powerfully by these, high dimensional aspects of me, and especially for me at least, in like galactic remembrance or a real multidimensional kind of those aspects coming in so strong and powerfully, because that for me are these long forgotten kind of bits that we have been entrained out of, which we all carry within us. And I guess some of us are starting to remember that sooner than others, but most of us are going to at some point. I don't know if you've had any of those kinds of experiences or things coming in to your field, but it is amped up for me exponentially.
And I think that's the topic that many of us who have been playing with the energy and excited about what is appearing. Absolutely. I mean, I'm seeing light bodies. And I know you have been too. I mean, it's amazing. I've always, for the last 20 years, I've seen big blue orbs, and I see them around people while I'm coaching, and I've been able to download a lot of what you're talking about, voices and wisdom from myself and my guides. But lately, I have actually, in my peripheral vision been seeing light bodies, full bodies showing up. And I just believe this is going to get better and better again. And it feels really positive, like really high vibe.
Hmm.
Are
Yeah.
you noticing the same?
Yeah. I mean, veils are lifting or thinning at such a rapid pace. And I think I've been feeling this really strong calling to step into a new level of my soul directive in a way. And not to, like, I'm almost like reevaluating not everything I do, but maybe how I speak about the work I do, because a lot of the information that's now coming through is giving me an expanded, advanced understanding of actually what I'm doing, because I've had to fly by like blind by the seat of my pants, really, because I've been, bringing through information and multidimensional activations and this energy work with people's light bodies that, to be honest, I'm not given the exact definition of why that is and what that's doing. I have to just show up and do it. And people have shifts and changes and things. But, there's definitely been part of my mind that's been wanting to be like, how do I explain this? I mean, how am I supposed to even share this with people if I don't even know really how it operates? But I feel like there's a level of wisdom and understanding about that starting to unfold and blossom within me that almost has me kind of considering who and really what I am and how am I presenting myself now, which is just a label and it's not really about that, but it's more giving the permission within myself to be this, expand into this whole other realm of my energy signature that is just so exciting and feels even more like home than ever. So,
Yes, yes. I love the metaphor that we're in the chrysalis.
yes.
We are in the goo right now.
Yeah.
And we just have to, again, we have to lean into trust.
Hmm.
We know this is happening for us, and we are, as we're switching our DNA and going from a carbon-based to a crystalline-based DNA, it's just been that's what we're feeling.
Mm.
And that's why we're starting to see things differently. We're starting to be channeling things that we're not really sure of. And I truly believe that we just not need to be authentic. We need to be able to say, I'm not really sure what this means, but I'm willing to explore this together.
Yeah.
Because we're pioneers, aren't we? We're pioneers in this new train.
That's right. And I mean, both of us are here to bring people into reconnection with that blueprint within them that is the unique template, an organic template of light, that when we are all operating from that level in the integrity of what is, then we are showing up and that energetic that is having its amazing ripple effect out onto the planet because we're showing up in the authenticity of who we came to be, rather than what we've been programmed or conditioned into on this planet, which is what both you and I help deprogram people out of as well.
Yeah. I love what you said earlier too, Joanna, about the soul's perspective. Like when you do the work that we do at the caliber that we do, at the depth that we do, it's easy to hold on to that higher perspective, that soul's perspective over the ego or the human perspective. And when that happens, you can trust. For example, I'm going to give you an example about what happened at COVID. Like so many families, my son and I had different opinions about what was going on with COVID. And we were both afraid for each other. And so we were trying to, just get each other to see our perspective. And we were judging out of fear because we loved each other.
Yeah.
And it was what it was doing instead of helping, it was really pushing us apart. And it was separating us to where we were not having a good time together anymore. And so we made an agreement that we would not talk about it, that we knew that we had the best interests for each other, and that we would just allow that to even expand our love for each other
Mm,
because we cared so much that we could just open our hearts and continue to meet each other at that level and respect each other rather than judge each other and really just have fun. Just have fun. And we did. And I have to say, he's one of my bigger teachers. And that was what, 4 years ago? I think it was 4 years ago. And we have never been closer, ever, ever. In the whole time he's been a part of my life, we have become so tight because of the work we did. Now, I was talking to somebody else who the same thing happened to her son, and she's still, really righteous, really trying to change him. They won't even invite her over for Christmas because she's so, has such a hard, strong energy toward trying to change them and fix them and see her perspective, again, based out of love and fear, that they've pushed each other away and it has just done the opposite. And so, what I explained to her is that if in fact our loved ones did make a difficult choice, a wrong choice, and I don't know, I don't believe in wrong and right, just their choice, and they aren't going to be living that much longer on this plane, in this planet. Instead of being afraid and trying to save them or fix them, what if we could just love them
mm,
and spend the rest of our time together here in these bodies in this lifetime just having fun and expanding our love?
mm.
Wouldn't that be a much better way to say goodbye?
Yeah, I love that.
And when you know you're a soul having a human experience, you know you're going to meet again in that other plane.
Mm,
And so I just engage in this lifetime with lightness,
yeah.
with joy,
Mm.
and with, real consciousness rather than fear and the need to control.
Usually. Because also, what's coming to me in this moment is that in those circumstances, each of you are only dealing with the information you have at that time.
Hmm.
And as we know with everything, things come out, unravel, change, all sorts of stuff. I mean, like example, going from Newtonian physics to quantum physics in a way.
Yeah.
Those things change and evolve over time, and as do the situations directly connected to COVID and everything that happened to that. And in that moment, you wouldn't have been aware of what was to come, or even the things that have unfolded since then about everything that is connected to that, and the possibilities and potentials for all concerned, and it not meaning one specific thing that maybe we couldn't be attached to that at that time, but we're not almost opening the space to complete trust of the divine intelligence, no matter what path it's taking you down, that there will be solutions, possibilities, and potentials that are going to be serving and allowing that process. And there's something in it for everyone, no matter what path they're taking.
Absolutely. And like I said, with all the new discoveries that are going to be happening in healthcare, oh, I think over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, I believe that we are going to be just launching into all kinds of amazing new ideas in medicine. So I'm just, I just like to live in that higher timeline and not go into fear. I really think fear needs to be saved for when the house is on fire. That's it.
It's 100% I agree, fear does serve a purpose. It shouldn't be like, oh, no fear. But the thing is, and what came through in my book, A Beautiful Radical Truth, it talks about how fear is literally systemic within everything we think, say, like everything that's going on, especially in the brain mind, and that how it is actually at the minutest level informing how we are showing up in this reality. And that is the issue because it was never meant to be like that, right? So, it's come from the survival sort of program within us, and yet it's then gone down to this level that it's working against us rather than working for us. And that's kind of where it's kind of got a little bit, bent out of shape. But fear itself is an energy that is, as you say, if the house is burning or, you're running away from some kind of issue or, natural disaster,
Dinosaur.
you need it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's there for a reason, and there's no question. I always like to say that fear is really great for the linear world, for this 3D reality. But
Mhm.
when it's anything that we can't take care of, then fear is just spinning us into a way that we don't want to live, a future that we don't want to have.
Mhm.
And so, really, if you can't I always say, take care of whatever you can take care of, and then you got to just trust that you're going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think I see a lot of people who are living with anxiety, particularly, and this panic about really small things in their reality happening that is so out of whack in the spectrum of balance of themselves and the truth of what it is that it gets blown up into this massive thing, which ultimately has to be being fed by fear or belief systems that revolve around fear at some deep level within that probably needs to go in and be looked at. And, I think the amount of anxiety and nervous energy and panic that has been accelerating so much on this planet is really something that needs to kind of have some keen attention on because we're really not meant to be like that. And I don't think you can really blame the 5G or the whatever else is like all the things that, on that. It's not. It's actually deep set things within ourselves that we are creating those effects within our body and being, or we're not listening to our body in some way and what it's trying to tell us and speak to us. And so then you get this buildup of, like you were talking about with your, can't remember if it was your that male
Family member.
um that it just boils up and then you have these instances where
Yeah.
because it hasn't been dealt with over time just
Yeah. And I find that a lot of it is, I mean, it can come from past lives. My son actually came into his body angry as an infant, and it was very interesting. So I know that was from a past life. And fortunately, I do believe in astrology. I have an amazing astrologist, and he's really helped me through that. And for my son, of course, because he's had to learn how to deal with that anger in a healthy way and to release it well. But I'm finding that it is in our nervous system, just like what you said, it's in our nervous system, and it's been created most often, I'm finding when we were young, like with his family member in utero and when he was younger. And so all we did was we went back into, those memories. I took him into visualization and meditation, and we met that little boy. And then he learned to be able to protect him and talk to him and have compassion for him in all the ways he's wanted his mother to be there for him. He, as an adult, has learned how to be there for that part of himself so that he knows when he does get triggered in anxiety, it's just that part of him. And he can take that breath, those deep diaphragmatic breaths, go out and anchor and use his tools now to come back into that grounded place. I'm finding, and I don't know if you are too, the topic, the buzzing topic that I've seen in the industry recently is so much around the nervous system tools,
Yeah. Yeah.
just for what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, there's such a big requirement for it because
Oh,
most of us haven't been doing the nervous system work. And I mean, I don't know about you, but in my journey, I was utilizing drugs, alcohol, all things outside of myself,
numbing out.
the numbing out on many levels. I think probably because I came in so sensitive in the first place, and also there were certain parts of my childhood and upbringing that I found, quite traumatic and challenging or whatever. Just as we all do, it could be the tiniest thing. It doesn't have to be a really heavy thing, and you can find it traumatic when you're a young person. But those things. It took me a while to realize that it was because my nervous system was so out of balance that I wasn't also able to feel. And feeling is the way of the future because we are remembering how to feel. It's not about the linear senses that we are interpreting reality with. We need to feel the deeper layers within it. But some people find maybe in the experience, like I did all those years ago, that I wasn't necessarily able to connect with that at that time because I had these layers of filter over me that I needed to kind of work through and unravel in order to get back to the place where I was able to dial into my sensitivity a little more and not allow this imbalance in my nervous system to be overriding anything that was coming through as guidance and my natural intuition to be able to help me forward. Um, and it's hard when I think you're in the fire as well, or you're in periods of like deep darkness or depression, or when we go through these dark nights of the soul that, many of us have on this journey. And, there's been multiple in my life. And it's hard when you're in it also. And that's not the time to really be trying to even get guidance or any of that either, because even though you're desperate for there's no clarity that comes in that situation within you. So it's better to kind of allow the emotions and the overwhelm and all of that to flow through until you can come back to a bit of a calmer state and then try and dial into those levels of intuition and clarity within the self.
I agree. And I think the key is to just listen to the story and watch for the dialogue
Yeah.
because the dialogue can keep creating more of the anxiety.
Yes.
So if we can stop telling the story and just feel the feels and just allow them to kind of feel and release, feel and release, feel and release, getting angry, feeling sadness, that's so, so important. And I so agree with you, Joanna.
Mm.
But when we get so hooked on, like you said, like we talked about earlier, the blame game and blaming that person or that thing for making us feel a certain way, we're just going to continue to create it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, our brain is looking for examples in reality that confirm our beliefs, that are informing our thoughts and emotions. So we're constantly in it's like gathering evidence in the bag to be like, oh, there it is, that person showing up there. And that's almost like that filter is going to color the perspective and the perception that you're choosing to see through. When you, as you say, unravel those stories or be very, very mindful about what's coming in that moment when that is happening and take a little bit of radical responsibility for ourselves and all of that, take a step back, then we can have a different experience. But it's really what's moving within us that is coloring our perception. And that is in itself having an effect with the energetic engagement we have with everything. And so when we are having that energetic engagement, we often can't see the wood through the trees with that, I think, because we're, collecting this evidence of the story to back up the story of whatever our beliefs and narratives we have running about a situation or a person or whatever it is. So that's where, yeah, it gets, if you can have that moment of awareness, it's so important, I feel.
It's the first step. We've got to recognize it. We've got to see it.
Mhm.
And even before that, we have to have a desire to want to see it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, intention is everything.
Change anything a lot of people are really comfortable in their story and
Yeah,
they won't be changing, and that's okay too.
yeah, yeah. I know we're all doing it in our own way, in our own timeline. And I think it's also one of those really easy things in the spiritual or holistic community or whatever to be like, oh, they're asleep, they're not awake, and all this kind of stuff, which is just judgment straight up. Um, and it's like, what if that person is playing the perfect role that they need to actually be of service to all the characters in their reality right now? Who are we to say that that is not happening? But we're like, oh, they're like this. Oh, they're not even, connected, or they're not even listening to the deeper levels or whatever it is, it's I think it's really interesting because the judgment is what is keeping us in the mind space when we're all meant to be having a deeper connection into our heart and the knowing that is the requirement to be really discerning in this reality right now because of the absolute shit show that's going on everywhere around us that gets really confusing.
Our job right now is not to change anyone.
No.
It's to be that lighthouse. It's to be that light. It's to radiate love.
Mhm.
And you do that through compassion, through listening, not to change someone, but to understand,
Mm.
and that's what the world needs now.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. It is really hard to not um I guess leap in those moments of an activated kind of situation with someone when they are showing up with their blinders on and in the blame game and all of that stuff. How would you recommend that if that is what someone is reflecting to you? What's the best way to manage that and show up? What would you say?
Don't engage with it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. I mean, I listen, I say thank you for your perspective. I leave the room. I mean, I just don't engage with it. I can hold space for it for a while, but when it becomes too toxic and they're just spinning in it, I just have to say, change the subject.
Right.
But I don't engage with it. It's like a game. You hit the ball back and then they hit it there and then it just gets worse and bigger and if you try to tell them that what they're seeing is not real, then they're going to defend that and no, they're
Mhm.
not ready. They're not ready for engagement. They just want to let it out. And if you can hold space for that, fine. If you can't, change the subject or leave.
Yeah. Good advice. I love that.
What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with that. It's like you either have to pipe down but I think in some situations it's tricky, like especially with family members, because if you're constantly piping down, not saying anything, holding space or avoiding, that energy can become something else within you that needs to be addressed at some time. I've noticed that within myself. If I have that practice but really deep down, I'm like, oh, like I can feel the kind of the push pull of that frequency within me, and I do feel like sometimes I do just need to try and in a loving way offer something else in a situation, but generally I will take the same as you, which is zip it or just be like, okay, sure, and then kind of change the subject, move on, that kind of thing.
No, if you've got if it's like with me, it was over a family cabin and
Hmm.
it was something that we both owned. You can't just ignore it. You have to take a stand because it's who you be. It's how you do it, and you do it, like I say, from a higher perspective. Um, I just started manifesting. Like I actually had to get a lawyer because he took us to court. So I couldn't just ignore it.
Yeah.
So I had to get a lawyer and I had to do all of the gathering of the information and going to my bank account and writing the checks. And it was like, I don't want to have to do this for that long. So what do really get clear? What do I desire in this circumstance? How would I like this to go?
Yeah.
And then I set my intention and I did what I told you already. I set the intention that, hey, if I'm not meant to have the cabin, it'll be something better.
Yeah.
I trust that this process is happening for me, not to me. I'm going to take responsibility for my part in this.
Hmm.
And I'm going to consciously create something that's really awesome out of this.
Hmm.
And I think knowing that I could and taking 100% responsibility for my part and what I had to do. I still have to play the game. I still have to, it's a legal thing. But at the same time, and I had to engage at that level. But at the same time, I was not gonna go deep into the woe is me or being afraid of the worst case scenario. I really held that vibration high and without attachment. And I think attachment is the number one key because attachment is what creates the disappointment and the frustration.
Yeah.
If it's a feeling over a form, and I
Mhm.
just wanted to feel okay. And I had to do that work within myself.
Yeah. It's almost like that quote from Einstein, you can't solve a problem at the level it was created. So it's kind of similar to that, right? You're kind of going at the problem here, holding this space and just allowing this to just be whatever it is, and you kind of manage it, but you're operating here and the holding the space of the vision of what you're wanting to bring in for the future, whatever that is, rather than coming down to meet that or contributing energy to that level of whatever's going on there. Yeah.
Exactly right, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Of life.
yeah, it
I
really,
mean, we decided to come down in these bodies during this time. And here we are, and we get to learn how to navigate. We get to learn how to play the game. And there's all kinds of ways to play the game. So, yeah, it's called life.
yeah. And I think, when we can just allow ourselves to take it less seriously as well, and not get so caught up in it. Because nothing is really do or die at the end of the day. Things shift and change and evolve, and solutions come out of nowhere, and the landscape changes, the playing fields change, all sorts of stuff happens, and you don't even know it. So when you're in that moment, I think it's good to just remind ourselves of that, because it's not necessarily the linear understanding that the mind wants you to buy into in that moment. And when you can drop into that space of the heart, you come into this space of actual knowing. And yeah, from that space is the space when it's clear, and there's more ability for us to make informed decisions there than anywhere else, really.
Exactly. And
Mm.
it's spacious.
Hmm.
You know that time stands still. You know you have plenty of time. That's why I like being in nature. I love being outside, grounding, and just seeing the trees and knowing, they're still, they're grounded, they're rooted. What would it be like to feel like that? And just being in that essence, or the birds that are just flying and doing what they're doing, I just think nature is one of the best teachers for all of us.
Oh, it really is. I am an avid nature lover.
No, you are. No, I think you even outdo me.
I really have a connection with the natural world that goes way beyond. It's very shamanic actually, but it's like galactic shamanic. And it's so fascinating. I just absolutely adore it.
You're cosmic.
Yeah, I love that cosmic consciousness kind of piece.
No. And
What
you manifested your own cosmic spot of nature.
I
I
know.
mean, seriously.
Yeah, that's really the most exciting thing happening right now, and the levels of information that is unfolding around that, and the energetics behind it, and the larger reference point in the scheme of timelines that are far beyond this lifetime right now, dropping into my awareness and consciousness, that are not only incredibly exciting, but feel like a soul directive, like I was talking about before. And I've held space for that to unfold over the last months. And all of this has come in as divine guidance, alignment, direction, and been supported on levels from that space of different beings showing up, like my dad, who's in spirit, and also other multidimensional galactic supporters. Because, yeah, when you are in such dedicated alignment, I think to that path, that's going to be a beacon of light for everyone to be able to be part of in some way, and doesn't necessarily mean any of the kind of work we do, but that could go beyond into any kind of interpretation and something created in this reality, for example. But yeah, it's really fascinating how the level of acceleration alignment certainly supports it, and all of the forces come in, and then just like, but I feel like that was my whole experience during these last few months has been like the divine, you can't mess with the divine. No person, no place, no thing can really mess with this incredibly powerful force that is the divine intelligence. When it's meant to be, it is meant to be. And nothing can shift that and change it. And if anything is coming in the way out of it, it is something that you're clearing out to get in further alignment with that divine directive or that divine
Nice.
force.
I so agree. I was fortunate enough as a little child, I was able to be with the unseens and the nature sprites, and I never really let that go. And so I get so excited about your level of conversation right there.
Mhm.
Um, and I just say, let your inner child lead the way.
Yeah.
Just drop out of, all the programming that we have been taught
Mhm.
and really go back into the eyes of a child and really just allow the magic to unfold because it is, and we won't be able to see it if we don't believe in it.
No, yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, there is that saying, oh, I'll believe it if I see it, but it's not. It's
The
the,
other way around.
yeah.
Believe it, then you will see it.
It's
And
like,
that's why I titled my business Opening Doors Within, because it's creating from the inside out rather than the outside in.
yeah. And hence why I called my book The Inside Hustle and why this series is called The Inside Hustle with Joanna. And everyone's like, oh, hustle's that, old paradigm word, but that's just talking about our internal relationship with ourselves. And it was a word in a way that just came through, and I just worked with that. But it is so about this game with going on within us, because this is where all the answers are, all the magic is. I mean, where the doors open, it is. Yeah,
Changes in here, everything out there changes.
that's right.
Simple
People
as that.
people kind of don't believe you when we say that, but I experience it in my own life all the time and in my clients as well when they are shocked when things change as well. And it's just so fascinating to me that, we can allow more of that for ourselves, each and every one of us. You don't have to know what you're doing. You don't even have to be in a coaching program with either one of us or anything. But if you are in that space of just being able to open into that, then there's so much waiting for you. And you can follow your imagination, you can follow your inspiration. That is the connected to your heart and your greatest guidance within. And it can be so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I know, but we've been conditioned to not know how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's where my compassion goes, for me too, because I was conditioned as well. I mean, we have all been taught to follow the rules
Mhm.
and look at outside authority for what to do. And it's like we're taking our power back. It's sovereignty from within here and creativity and desire and imagination.
Mhm.
Those are the tools that we were born with, but we've not been taught how to use them to consciously create our reality.
Mhm.
That's what we're relearning. And like you said, it's so simple and it's free. There it is here.
So it is, it's one of the kind of cosmic jokes I like to think about it as.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do believe that these young children, I just had a new grandbaby last week. And I have four grandchildren that are, all under the age of 5. And I truly believe that these children are going to lead the way in showing us all of these magical tools that we have right here inside of us and how to use them. And I do believe that this old paradigm is crumbling because that's been the domination so that we haven't been able. This has all been around for thousands or a long time. I mean, as long as I've been alive, we've had free energy and all these things, but that all has been snuffed because, there was no money in that.
Mhm.
And that greed is going. I truly believe that energy of domination is crumbling. And these new babies that are being born are the leaders in 40 years, in 30 years. And they already know all this stuff, and it's not going to be programmed out of them. They are going to be the most amazing teachers. My astrologer has always said, well, for the last 20 years, he said, in 2025, the Ascended Masters are going to open their school. They're coming back and they're going to be opening a school in 2025.
Oh, interesting.
And I mean, look at some of these young adults.
Yeah.
And did master material?
Hmm.
I'd say, I mean, I'm learning so much from these young adults. I'm following them like crazy on social and I'm taking programs with them. I am really listening to learn because they are high vibe and they haven't had it programmed out of them.
And that's a paradigm shift in itself, isn't it? Because you're sort of taught, oh, if they're young, they don't have the training or they don't have the qualifications, or like all this old paradigm stuff that's like,
The old way.
don't know what they're up to. They haven't had the experience or whatever, you know? And it's just like you have to shift out of that when you are moving into embracing this new perception, this new paradigm way of being, because that doesn't exist anymore. Because guess what? People are coming in with a total different level of consciousness that is in more resonance with their profound gifts and abilities, because none of us are carrying just what we have in this lifetime. It goes way beyond that into multitude of lifetimes. And that's what I feel being blossoming within me right now as well, is all of this access to this other stuff that just goes beyond time and space. And it's so, so, so cool and exciting. And they're just more of aware of it coming in. Like, how cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on and on this topic, Joanna.
Good. We're probably going to come on again because, like we best conversations. But Cindy,
This is why we love the fall retreats, the weekends where we do the deep dive
yeah.
and we just pull stuff apart and check it out and then put it back together a little differently. And after 2 days of doing that kind of work or 3 days of doing that kind of work, literally you look different.
Yeah, it's true. It really is. Yeah, amazing. So as we kind of come to completion and are just wrapping up here, is there anything else, a final message, a bit of inspiration, even a little process, whatever you are inspired in this moment to share with everybody? What
Big
might
question. I would say breathe.
mm,
Make time to pause throughout your day and take some nice, big, slower than usual diaphragmatic breaths and just be. I don't think we do that enough. We
mm-mm.
get so caught up in what we have to do and doing and numbing out with all of the stuff. I would say the number one thing that would be most helpful for the world right now is to just press pause a little more often during the day.
I love that.
Just breathe.
That's beautiful. And do you have anything else coming up over the next few months that you want to tell anyone about, or also let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for asking. You can find me at Cindy Powers Prosor, Prosor.com. And what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of in that chrysalis. So I am just kind of playing with the energies of what people are asking for. I'll be doing some deeper dives, some retreats at the end of the year. I'm off to California in another couple of weeks, over to that little batch with my new brother. Um, and I'll be just, indulging in a lot of nature and fun. However, I'm doing a free call every single month, and it's on a topic such as what Joanna and I have just been talking about. It's
Oh,
an hour long, and anybody's invited. There's no sales pitch at all. I feel like this kind of conversation is what the world needs most.
mm,
And so I am doing that once a month. So if you go over to my website, again, it's cindypowersprosor.com, CindyPowersPR, Prosor, Prosor.com. and sign up for my newsletter. It's only twice a month, and it's really nice and short and sweet topics. But I will let you know of those dates and the topics of what we're doing. And I just think that we've had great engagement, really good participation. People are starved to just have a conversation at this level and learn more about what does it mean to go within? What do you mean creating your life from the inside out? When do we need to be in our head? How do I drop out of my head and into my heart? These are big topics, like you said, that we are not taught. So I'm opening, and if people want more often than once a month, I would do it more often. I'm doing more speaking in front of live events. And again, I don't have anything booked right now, but in October, when I return back to New Zealand, I've already booked some live events and some retreats that will be happening.
Mm.
So that'll be happening there in the US. I'm in the US July, August, September to mid-October, and I'm hoping to do some live events, some speaking, and some teaching, and maybe even a retreat there. So
Amazing.
the best thing to do right now is to just go to my website, sign up for my newsletter. I promise you, ooh, yeah, even the universe is giving it a thumbs up. And and then you'll find out all the good things that I'm going to be creating between now and the end of the year.
Amazing. So you can find all those details in the show notes under this video. And, thank you, Cindy, so much for being here today. If you resonate with this video, please subscribe, share it with others, share the love. We love that here. And yeah, make a comment below. Let us know what you think, and we'll keep an eye on that and come back to you with our thoughts and perspective. But Cindy, again, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your beautiful truth today. It was such a joy and pleasure. I love our conversations, and yeah, just thank you for being you.
Thank you for inviting me, Joanna. I have to say, you're one of my most fun people to have a conversation with.
Is it just putting it out there? Well, anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for being. Bye.